Fantasy sports fans, welcome to MFSN The Hub's Fantasy Baseball Strategy Show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here as always with Kasey, Vlad to the Moan Scheinbold, and Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody, I'm Ross the Boss. Opening day, I watched the Yankee game a little bit, not the whole thing, Kasey. Don't get angry with me.
Okay, I watched it for both of us.
Garrett Cole, that guy was on fire. And who had more strikeouts, Cole or Webb? Kasey, who had it?
Webb had 12. Garrett Cole only had 11.
Okay, fine.
That's quite a battle, though. That's amazing. Well, so opening day is so exciting, guys, of course. And, we've all been waiting for this for some time. So, of course, we'll break with some big news, which hurts me in our fantasy league. Justin Verlander suddenly on the IL. What's your intel on this?
It's opening day. No one heard about this injury till like hours before opening pitch. How did this happen? Was it something was bugging him the whole week?
Well, they backdated it to March 27th. So I assume that means it happened 3 days ago. But yeah, I just noticed it at the bottom of the screen on MLB Network when I was watching the Yankee game. Breaking news. So
I noticed it.
I quickly texted Dan to tell him that he was screwed again, that the curse of the Verlander
and he ruined
hit
his
him
morning.
one more time.
So just to orient people to that, listen, I understand you draft a 40-year-old pitcher, he could get injured. That's clear. But Verlander has tormented me for years. When I own him, he's terrible in some way or gets injured. When I don't, my cousin Andrew wins the title with him. It happens every time. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Lauren had him one time and he dominated for her as well.
Yep. Anybody but me. But, I prevented other people from dominating me by drafting him. So
again, how long is he out for? Are there any details about that? Is it just missing one start? Is it more than one start?
Here's the intel that I have. I have that they're gonna do some scans again in a week.
Scans. Okay, so he's missing at least 2 starts.
Yeah, and also the fact that they backdated it to me is, maybe I'm reading the tea leaves optimistically because I want to, but the fact that they backdated it does help. It's kind of like with Liam Hendricks. They didn't put him on the 60-day DL.
Right.
So
I saw that.
Why not? That suggests that they think he actually
he's throwing the ball.
He can maintain a throwing program even through the injury. That's how low grade it is. But
yeah. So
just enough to mess with Daniel.
Soon. Yeah.
So what other major pieces of news do we have for people on opening day? And of course, we're here to talk about anything people want to talk about fantasy baseball related, including the strategy. And you got to get into the strategy right away. The game's going.
How about Alec Boehm just took Jacob deGrom deep for a 2-run shot?
Are you just trying to rub everything in today, Kasey?
Why, do you have Jacob deGrom too?
No, remember, I wanted to draft Alec Boehm. You wanted to draft Alec Boehm. I passed him up.
I prayed. I did my little secret prayer, so he made it to me a couple picks later.
And then he says he hit a home run.
Off of Jacob deGrom. There goes the Cy Young.
There goes the 0 ERA for the year, which I thought deGrom was going to get.
Everyone thought it.
Yeah, I had that in the pool.
What are the other big headlines that you see coming in? It's a minefield out there trying to figure out who to pick up.
The biggest one was that both Anthony Volpe and Jordan Walker, like we're talking about the two kind of hotshot prospects in spring training and the question whether they were going to make the opening day roster. Volpe started today. Walker is going to be starting in left field later today.
Right field. Yeah.
Oh, is it right field they're putting him in?
Yeah.
They had said left, but so I think what we're seeing, the collective bargaining agreement kind of puts some incentives for teams to start their young guys earlier instead of hold them back for a few weeks to gain that extra year of service time. And so we're seeing that. So you're getting a lot of young guys. Rutschman hit a home run today. So there's a youth movement in baseball.
Are we noticing anything about, the change to the pitch clock and all that stuff? What have you guys noticed with that?
The thing, in watching the game, it was interesting. The Yankee game, Jock Peterson never left the batter's box during his entire at-bat anytime. He just stayed in there because you have to be back in the batter's box within like 12 seconds. So for him, I guess it just made sense for him to stay in there. The game was 2 hours and 32 minutes or something.
Right.
That's going to make, even for a baseball fan, and I enjoy the chess game of baseball, the fact that it was only 2.5 hours was awesome.
I like it too. It's usually there's like a big break between pitches, but now it's like boom, boom, boom. You don't if you turn away, you're going to miss a pitch.
Well, it was, one of the times they tried to do the out of town scoreboard. You know how they try to update you between pitches, and they're used to having like 40 seconds. They couldn't even get through 2 games before they had to call the pitch and then come back and do it again.
That's hilarious. The announcers are definitely going to be thrown off.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see a lot more stolen bases.
It's a lot easier to be a color commentator now. You don't have to fill as much. We're going to
see a lot more offensive displays this year compared to last year. It's going to be good.
I had to stop watching the Orioles and Red Sox game to come here. And I think the Red Sox had walked 8 batters already in the first 5 innings, and the Orioles had like 6 stolen bases. So,
I mean, it is really crazy. And what it makes it hard to do is to value the players. You know, like when I look at people on the wire and let's say they have stolen base prowess in their history. What are they going to do this year? Like Jorge Mateo, for example.
He has 2. He had 2 steals.
Stole 2 bases already. So
Cedric Mullins stole 1. So Ross's prop bet still in play.
Right.
I mean, we'll see a lot more stolen bases with the bigger bag. It's going to be like the 1970s again with all the stolen bases. I'm excited. It's going to be great.
So let's get to who people can pick up early in the season. You know, early in the season is incredibly important to pounce on these guys because you don't have long. People are going to catch on to people very quickly. So this is a key point. We got to talk about who should people be snatching up here. And let's talk about, we don't have to stick to 60% and under, but that tends to be the most useful. So who are some guys that I'll say this, by the way. I've been waiting for teams to put guys on their IL, like Seiyu Suzuki. I have on my team. I was waiting for them to put him on the IL so I could scoop somebody else up. Now's the time where a lot of people are going to be scooping people up. Who are you looking at so that I can jump ahead of you? I'm kidding.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I'll go to the Cincinnati Reds. I'll pick one of Ross's guys. Jake Fraley is 40% owned, and he's going to hit.
Guy, by the way.
You own him? Okay.
I own him. Well,
but he's 40%. I'm just saying he's a
great pickup. I agree.
He's got speed and power, and he hits at the top of the lineup. I mean, he's not going to be like a Michael Harris type of outfielder, but if he's getting bats every day in that ballpark and he's getting on base and he's going to run, I mean, that's a guy who you can get for an outfield, which isn't very deep this year, that can provide some quality stuff.
Ross, what do you think as a Reds fan?
I mentioned him on our show Tuesday that he's one of the guys who I'm focusing on fantasy-wise on the Reds. He's the star fantasy player for me. So yes,
what about
he's a great pickup.
TJ Friedel also on the Reds. He's a power speed guy. He doesn't have the pedigree though. So I'm curious what you think.
I like TJ also, but not as much. Not as much. I mean, again, the Reds play in that easy ballpark where the ball flies out of there, especially in the summertime. And, let's talk Cincinnati. I mean, Tyler Stevenson, I think he'll have a big year too. I mean, he's healthy and he's a guy that hits for average and can hit home runs. He plays catcher and first base and DHs. So he'll be out there almost every day doing something. And the Reds, as we all know, they're very, they're not the most complete team in Major League Baseball. So the guys that they do have, they'll be playing every day.
Yeah, I mean, I scooped up Fraley as quickly as I could. I actually meant to draft him. And it was one of those situations where I was like, wait a minute, he didn't get drafted? I couldn't believe it. So I went back to scoop him up. But, another guy that I'm potentially looking to add is a Yankee guy. Kasey, can you guess who it is?
Under 60%.
I think he's under 60%.
Under 60% is a Yankee guy. Is it Bader?
LeMahieu?
Bader?
Nope.
Bader?
Josh Donaldson.
Bader, I was high on, as you know, but he's on the IL for 6 weeks. It's Oswaldo Cabrera.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. He's got a lot of upside. My problem now is I was going to add an outfielder, and now Verlander goes down, and I've got an added pitcher. So this is what happens in fantasy baseball. You've got to move to where your needs are. So what pitcher should I pick up, guys? Give me some help.
Well, one guy I like is, he gave up a run in the first inning today against the Reds, is Mitch Keller. I mean, he's not, I don't know how owned he is. Let me look at his ownership.
No, he's below 60%.
He's 12% owned. His last
I was going to say about 15.
His last 15 starts of last year were 2.77 ERA. And he was great in spring training. I'm not saying it's Max Scherzer, don't get me wrong, but if you remember, like the year before Max Scherzer became the superstar, his first half was terrible. His post All-Star break was awesome, and he figured it out. And Mitch Keller is a former top prospect who was kind of a first-round pick, predicted to be the next great starter in Pittsburgh. If he's figured it out, that's somebody you can get really cheap right now who pitched awesome at the end of last year.
Well, okay, just to play a little devil's advocate, though, he wasn't very good in August. He was amazing in July and September. 2 great months. He did have a bad August. His overall numbers look pretty good. But it's interesting because if I had to pick up a Pittsburgh pitcher, he wouldn't be the one I'd pick up.
Roansy Contreras?
That's who I'd pick up. Because I just think he has more plausible upside at this point.
Yeah, I would probably stay away from...
Good afternoon. We got to welcome Albert. Albert, if you have questions about who to trade or even just observations about your own team and what you want to share, we want to hear them. Go ahead, Ross.
I like Carlos Carrasco of the Mets because, especially with Verlander going down, he moves up a notch now. He looked before his injury, he looked great, and his velocity during the spring training looked great. It's just with him, it's just he does give up some walks here and there, but if Carrasco's healthy and on that Met team that will score runs, and he's available in a lot of leagues, it's not a bad pickup.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and he's got some real plausible upside too. He used to be pretty amazing in a lot of seasons.
He's hurt. He got hurt. He got older. As we all know, when you get older, you get hurt. But I'd rather have a Met than a Pirate. Or, I mean, it just when you pick these players up on a bad team, it's just, the win factor comes in effect. So
wins are a crapshoot, but I agree with you that it's certainly a tiebreaker, if not more. You have to at least try to go for the wins, and the Mets should get a lot more wins than the Pirates.
Yeah, but the Pirates' bullpen, except for their closer, is kind of a joke. I mean, their bullpen is horrendous.
Well, Bednar also, he's gonna. How long do you think he's gonna be with the team? This is another thing we got to think about.
June or July.
All-Star break.
June or July.
All-Star break.
Right.
I say the day before the All-Star game, they'll be traded.
I was shocked that the Mets didn't try to offer a king's ransom already for him because of losing Diaz.
I think David Robinson. I think he'll pop in there, and he'll if he doesn't do well, I think they'll go trade for somebody. But I think they have a lot of faith in him. We'll see what happens.
He seems like he should get the first crack. But Buck Showalter did say, and I know this because I have Robertson, and so it was another bad piece of news. He said he wasn't going to declare a clear closer. Now, sometimes managers are just saying that. It's just manager speak. Is that the case here, guys? What do you think?
It could be committee. It totally could be committee for the Mets. I get it. I mean,
they have a lot of teams.
Yeah,
as we talked about relief pitchers.
The culture of baseball has moved to a committee approach, right? And so they don't have to name a closer.
It's like running backs in fantasy football.
I want to name a couple other pitchers, actually.
Oh, good.
One, speaking of the Mets, Kodai Senga is only 44% owned. I don't like. This guy has the ghost pitch or whatever it's called, and if you've seen the highlights of what he can do, I think it's worth a flyer on him if he's available in your league. And then Edward Cabrera of Miami might have the second best stuff behind Alcantara in that rotation. He has a chance to light the world on fire, and he's in the 40% ownership right now. Now's when you can pick up those. Now's when you jump on them. If you can stash them on the end of your bench, you'll watch the ownership level rise as they pitch well, and you don't have to chase after them or pay for them.
Those two may have risen a lot from the last time you looked, actually. Because
I looked just now.
Oh, well,
44% and 39%.
Wait a minute.
Kasey, how about the guy we mentioned last week, Graham Ashcroft? Do you like him still?
I do. I have him in one of my leagues.
So Yahoo may be having a problem because Kodai Senga is 81% rostered on what I'm looking at.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
I thought he was lower. I don't know what you're looking at, but
let's see.
Edward Cabrera is 75% rostered.
Okay.
I don't know, but this could be wrong. I don't know.
Maybe Casey's on a different. Maybe Casey's on Yahoo spelled with 1 O or something. Maybe
I'm on Yahoo.
A different site.
I'm on Yahoo. I'm drinking Yoo-hoo.
Yoo-hoo. Maybe you're drinking Yoo-hoo chocolate milk and you have no idea what's going on.
Okay, well, I'm
another pitcher that just keep an eye on. He's a closer, and he closes for I think he's the closer for the Angels. I have no idea. We'll see what happens this week. I mean, that's why you got to keep track of opening week because you get to see who the closers are and who aren't closing. Carlos Estevez, great stuff. I mean, it's just location of the ball. Sometimes he gets hammered, but this guy has unbelievable stuff, fires the ball. The Angels did say he's the closer starting the spring training. I'm not quite sure if he still is, but if you're looking for saves, and the Angels, I think they're like 81 games up over under in Vegas if you want to bet them. When it comes to over under, I kind of look at that stuff, especially for relief pitchers, because then you can figure out how many save opportunities they'll get. So the Angels are not going to. I think they'll finish over 500. That's my prediction. So I like him as a relief pitcher. If you're kind of stuck on saves and you need that as a category, it's not a bad guy to pick up.
Well, early in the season, there's so much movement. There's movement with closers throughout the year, but especially at the beginning, you just don't know what's going to happen.
No.
Kasey, looked like you were going to say something.
Well, there was a bat. We kind of glanced over some of the hitters. I was going to name a hitter that people could look at.
Go ahead.
It's one I want Ross to say because I'm not even sure I can pronounce.
What team?
Colorado Rockies, third baseman.
Oh, yeah. No, I've thought about that.
There's no way I can mention. No way I can. Just try.
We should try it.
Vinny Castilla.
There you
go.
Exactly.
Did I get it?
That was a good way out.
Yep. Elahuris Montero.
Where's he from?
He plays in Colorado. He's
no,
from
but where's his
hometown? I don't know.
Let's see. I'll look it up. See where he was born.
He was born
in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
5 home runs.
Montero.
Yeah. 300 in the spring. Took the third base job. Has a 900 OPS in the spring. And it's not a small sample, 64 at bats. That's 5 home runs, 12 RBIs, a bunch of hits. He's not going to steal. He's not a huge on base guy. He only has a 350 on base to a 300 batting average. But
it's the third base eligibility.
Right. Really, it's the thinnest position in fantasy, and it's in Colorado.
So let me ask a question.
To sell me. I love Rockies, especially in fantasy baseball. It's great.
Is Montero a better pickup than Spencer Steer in Cincinnati, which is close to Colorado?
Well, Steer didn't start today, did he?
Nope.
I actually don't know.
He didn't start. But I have some of a beef to say, and we're talking about weird cuts and weird things that happened when people were sent down or even off the roster. The Reds had this guy named Dominguez. I forgot his first name, but he batted .470 in spring training. His slugging percentage was over 1,000. Didn't make any errors. The Reds just didn't send him down. They cut him. I mean, they cut him. They released him. Why would you do that? I just don't understand.
That would be a question for the Castellinis. I don't know. I can't answer.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why you would cut a player that way over expectations in the spring training. And he's supposed to be a good locker room guy. Well, I just don't get it. But
there can be. Obviously, financial issues could be a thing. He
was the lowest paid guy on the team,
but he might not have any options left. So they either had to keep him on the major league roster or release him if you're out of options.
Well, he hit .470, so I'm just venting. I just don't understand what the team's doing.
Well, that is weird. What was his name? I didn't.
Dominguez. I was reading the article about it yesterday. Dominguez. Here, I'll find it.
It's not showing up, but look for it. I mean, that is pretty weird, but Kasey does make a good point. There's all kinds of business-related things, and it's not always money-related. It's often about options. To
answer your question, I think Montero's a better pickup than Steer at this point, though.
It looks like it, but, just to play devil's advocate, I'm not saying you're wrong. I actually agree with you on that. But in a week, we could be like, oh, my God, we got that so wrong. It's so hard at the beginning of the season. So go with your gut. If you were high on a guy and maybe he's not starting yet, a guy like Steer, I think, is going to end up in the lineup more often than not, but he might not. It's true. And you only have so many roster spots you can carry. This is part of the strategy of it all. So let me ask you guys this. In our 2 leagues, we have 2 leagues together. How do you look at the bench depth? Are you struggling where you look around and there's lots of guys you want to pick up, but you can't add them? And in which league? How do you feel about that?
Well, in our keeper league, I drafted 2 IL guys and had an IL keeper, so I had 3 extra bench spots. So I didn't mind that very much. I don't I have kind of equal. I have 2 bench spots for pitchers and 4 bench spots for hitters right now. And that's just because I feel like I'm weak at second base. So I have a bunch of second basemen on my bench.
I mean, I will say this though. I look at the wire and I'm just like, there's so many guys I would want to have.
Yeah.
It's and trying to decide. So let's talk about the strategy. What do you look for in somebody you're picking up at this point in the season? You know, what specifically are you looking for? And do you, I assume you mix it up. I mean, I certainly do. Sometimes I'm getting a guy who's upside. Sometimes I'm getting a guy with a safe floor. Sometimes I'm looking for a guy who has the position I'm looking for or the stat I'm looking for. Ross, how do you do it?
I look at, first week is weird because people, if they're people they're not like getting hits and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, owners panic and they drop them. I mean, they really do. And I've seen it done a million times. Even the pitchers is the worst because the pitcher has one bad outing and you feel you have to drop this guy because, he's going to be horrible the whole year, which is not true. So that's what you got to look out for on the waiver wire is like some owners just do stupid things.
Yeah. Watch who cut who.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. But it's about who's starting every day, who's playing, who's platooning. Like Kasey mentioned Brandon Belt a couple days ago, and he plays for Toronto and good hitter. I mean, he was great for the Giants. Now he's in Toronto. I mean, he should be better in Toronto. The field there is a lot better for hitters. But what Brandon Belt is, he's not going to play every day. He'll hit against right-handed hitters, and then when lefties come around, he probably won't get much playing time. So that's what you got to strategize and look at is what players play every day compared to platooning and sharing the position with somebody else. That's the main thing the first week because these guys, the Mike Trouts, these guys are going to, even they start out slow, they're going to start out, they'll be great the whole year. They'll be fine. But again, don't panic. Don't freak out the first week. If somebody has a bad game, don't worry about it. It's one game at 162. If Vladimir Guerrero plays 150 games this year, he probably will win MVP over Judge. That's my prediction. There you go.
Oh, we're going to get to bold predictions soon. I want to get Albert American's question in. He says, do you guys use free agent budget for waivers? Free agent acquisition budget. So, Albert, we do in one league. In one league, we have a free agent FAAB
acquisition budget,
and they're always on waivers, but you can put in a bid. So, it's really interesting. You see it all the time. People put in these bids. I'm sure you guys have noticed this, and I've even done it where we put in a bid and we could have gotten them for free.
Yeah,
it happens all the time. In our other league, it's all free agents. You can add them whenever you want, unless they've been cut by somebody. But you can only add 7 in a week. Now, this is a head-to-head league, too, so it's totally different. We have a rotisserie league with free agent budget and waivers, and then we have the head-to-head that's free agents all the time, but you can only add so many. What about you, Albert? Tell us about your league. So Ross made this point. You really do have to pay attention to cutting people early, but one thing I'll say is I think it's a little different when you cut a hitter who had a bad game. You can't get much data from that. Any hitter can look terrible in one game. A pitcher, on the other hand, if they really do very badly, the reason I could see potentially, I agree with you about not panicking, but the reason I could see potentially cutting them is if they've lost your trust that badly, especially if they were like a fringe guy on your bench and you're not going to use them for, like, you would need 3 to 4 weeks of solidity to trust them again, then you might want to move on. But if they still have value, I'd try to trade them.
Yeah. I mean, people like, let's say Flattery of St. Louis. Okay. He's coming off an injury, huge upside, huge ceiling this year, but he's really available in a lot of leagues. He really is. And so is Wainwright also, but I'm just giving St. Louis as an example. But again, if he has a couple bad starts, I probably would waive him. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't think Flaherty's one of those watch list guys at this point. I think he's coming off of 2 years of missed starts. I don't even think he's rosterable yet. And he had a terrible spring. I can look, but I remember his spring stats were not good at all. And so if I'm not going to trust him until he throws 3 or 4 quality starts, I don't think you draft him.
Or how about a guy like,
you put a bid on him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's say a guy like Michael Kopech of the White Sox, who Didn't have a good spring, got injured last year, had huge potential. I love this kid. I mean, I loved him when he was drafted. I mean, I loved him. You know, we talked about him. What do you think about him? Is he above Flannery, or who do you like better, Kopech?
I like Kopech better than Flaherty because
the strikeout potential.
And also Kopech has never pitched badly. The only problem is when he is not pitching. You know, Flaherty's pitched badly even when he is pitching, and he's also pitched really well. By the way, I'll say, Ross, I don't think Flaherty is a bad own for now. I just think he'd have a short leash, you know, and you've got to pick which upside you want. Which upside do you want to look at? Now, you've got a bunch of guys who are who have NA next to their name. You know, they're not available because they're in the minor league.
Let's talk about the biggest surprise, the guy I picked for Rookie of the Year, and they decided to put him in
Rodriguez.
Thank you, Kasey, for me. And they sent him to Rochester, I think. I mean, it's like, why are they doing this? Why is Baltimore not having this guy in the rotation? I mean, okay, his spring wasn't that great, but that happens all the time.
But with rookies, it carries more weight. If it's an established pitcher, if Carlos Rodon is healthy but has a bad spring, they're not going to bench him because they know what he's capable of. But he hasn't pitched in the big leagues before. You don't want him coming in not feeling confident into his major league debut.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is do we think that is actually protecting the
I think it's for his ego. They're going to get him 2 or 3 starts in the minors to get his mechanics under control and make him feel better about what he's doing, and then they'll bring him up. I don't think that affects his Rookie of the Year bold prediction. I think, if anything, it makes it a little more stronger because you don't want your first start to be with a lack of confidence in Fenway. Like, you just don't.
I don't think he'll be the opening day starter. I mean,
but if he's one of the first 3, he's in Fenway.
Yeah.
Well,
again, I was shocked that I was shocked at least they didn't put him in the bullpen to start the season or something. It's just shocking to me.
I'm going to back up though to another guy who got sent down the minors, and this was a while ago. But this was shocking to me when Vaughn Grissom got sent down. Was that weird?
We talked about it. It's you know what?
From what
this guy has a huge ego. He doesn't listen to coaches.
I heard it was an attitude thing. That's what I read.
It's a whole attitude thing, and Ron Washington kind of took it under his wing. I love Ron Washington. I think he's great. And, and he's the third base coach of the Braves. And Ron Washington kind of like told the Braves, listen, this kid's not listening. You got to do something. Send him down.
Yeah,
and they did.
That makes more sense of it.
Yeah, so that's the reason why.
Coaches there is.
I mean, Kasey and I talked about it too on our show Tuesdays afternoon.
1 p.m. Pacific, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock Eastern. Every Tuesday we talk baseball. But again, we'll talk other sports too. But again, I was shocked about that too because I have him in a few leagues, and he has the NA next to him.
Well, but that's you store him at the end of your bench because when he comes up, and he will, that he can still have an impact. Would you rather that's what I mean? Would you rather have Adam Reynolds, who's playing second base right now in Baltimore and can do some stuff on your bench, or would you rather have Vaughn Grissom, knowing that when he gets called up, there's potential dynamic impact?
Well, and doesn't it depend on the build of your team?
Right.
If you've got a bunch of guys like Vaughn Grissom, you're not going to be able to start anybody. So you got to balance it out. I mean, I drafted a young rookie who I'm really excited about, but there are times where I'm like, should I cut him?
Who is it?
It's Zach Veen, because Zach Veen, he's a great player, but the chances are starting to look like he's going to get called up in September if he gets called up at all this year.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, he's a big time talent. And if we weren't a keeper league, I wouldn't have him on my roster.
I mean, there's Painter for the Kansas City, the pitcher who I love. I mean,
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I mean, Philadelphia, Andrew Painter. Yeah. Sorry. I got mixed up on the, he's great. And they sent him down too. I mean, I don't think we'll see him until September. We don't see him until September either. But this guy's the real deal. I mean, guy.
But don't you think we won't see him till later, partly because of the injury? It's just going to take him a while to ramp back up, and then he's still got to get those innings.
I don't think he's coming back till at least September. We won't see him. But
so, are you going to hold him?
No, I dropped him.
Oh, okay. See, here's another guy that I have that's kind of similar to that, and I like to carry one lottery ticket like this usually, and it's Kyle Harrison. the guy, I mean, he
his
strikes
numbers. I talked about him in our pitchers episode.
Tell me why you like him so much.
Well, I mean, his strikeout numbers, I think
186 strikeouts in 117 innings.
Yeah,
that's the Dan Ratner litmus test, everybody. You'll see, the whole season.
You don't have to say anything more, right?
Yeah, the Dan Ratner litmus test is strikeouts versus innings pitched. That's how I know if Dan likes
113 innings pitched.
You have to have a good whip also. If you've got, I mean,
if you have a big whip, because Dan's a sadist, he likes that too.
That's right, S&M. I mean, look, when there was a guy like when Robbie Ray, before he won his Cy Young, I wanted nothing to do with him, even with his strikeout numbers, because his numbers just weren't good enough. But if you're showing signs that you can strike out guys like that, and there's promise that you're going to turn, I mean, Harrison to me could be the next Kershaw, the next Verlander. I mean, he just is so dominant that I was like, he's a little different than some of the others. Now, does it end up working out that way? Of course, I don't know, but you've got to decide on the makeup of your team. So like right now, I have to decide, does Zach Veen deserve a bench spot or not? I don't know, because I can pick up a guy like TJ Friedl. I can pick up Oswaldo Cabrera. I can pick up a pitcher who needs to fill in for Justin Verlander. But here I am sitting with somebody clogging up my roster, even though I'm excited about him. You know, if he looked like he was going to be a June call-up, I think it's a no-brainer. The guy.
Can I do a prediction? Speed. I say the next person you hear about that's going to be called up, you'll do a roster. You'll try to bid for him, and you'll waive this guy's going to be gone off your bench.
Okay, so who do you think I'm going to pick up?
I don't know yet.
Oh, you're just
there's going to be a rookie, or there's going to be something going on the next week. We don't know.
Yeah, there's going to be somebody we haven't thought of
and you'll be excited about, because we'll be watching Sports Center, you'll be watching MLB Channel or something. And you'll say, I really want that guy. I got to drop somebody. Who do I drop? And you're dropping, it's a guy you just mentioned. He's gone.
Well, see, I think it depends where you are in the standings and at what point of the year. I mean, if it happens in August and I'm not anywhere near contention, I'm going to drop somebody else and keep the guy who's a potential keeper, but knowing Dan, if he really wants to pick somebody up and he can predict it 2 days in advance, he's going to figure out a way to do a 2-for-1 trade, and then he's not going to have to drop anybody.
Well, you're right in terms of strategy. I mean, 2-for-1 deals are ways to open up roster spots and get value. I think I'm always looking for them. The problem that I'm running into, at least in our keeper league, is people know this, and they know it about me even. So the chance of me getting a 2-for-1 deal, if I offer you guys a 2-for-1, I basically have to offer a 2-for-2 deal that's really a 2-for-1 deal in my mind.
The Reds are playing right now. And this is Hunter Green's pitching line. 2.2 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, and 2 walks.
Whoa.
That's just in 2.2
wild
innings.
Thing.
I mean, I thought
he's not going to help your whip.
No. I mean, that's the reason I didn't draft him that's the reason I don't want him in our fantasy league, is because he's not consistent. He walks too many people.
He's not yet. He's like 22 years old.
Nah, that age thing is over with. I think he's a little older, Kasey. I mean, when he was younger, I gave him that, but no more saying he's young. He's not.
You know what's funny is people go from top prospect to former top prospect in like a year.
Yeah, it's like people calling Mike Trout. Like Mike Trout's still a kid. He's 33 years old, and he's not a kid. He has a kid.
I thought he was only 31.
He's 31.
Okay.
Ross likes to add a year.
He's not 31. Aaron Judge is 31, I thought.
Actually, I'm looking at, and this year he's going to turn 32. So we're kind of all a little bit right. Ross, you're right. He's older than we thought, and yet he is.
No, you and I said 31.
He said 31.
Baltimore's winning. 31. Baltimore's beating the Red Sox 10-7.
10-7. What inning?
It's the top of the 9th.
All right. So let's see what other games are going on right now.
Tampa Bay 3, Tigers nothing.
Who pitched for the Cubs? He blanked the
Marcus Stroman.
Oh,
who, by the way, got called for the first pitch clock violation of the year as a pitcher.
The Phillies are beating the Rangers 4-0.
Oh, Jacob deGrom. Corbin Burns got lit up by the Cubs. That'll make Dan happy.
That. Thank you for some
2
good
reasons.
news, Kasey.
One, he traded him And 2, he traded him to his cousin.
Yeah, and here's 3. I traded him, and it was for Vinny Pasquantino and Zach Gallen. Let me ask the people out there, weigh in on that, whether you think that's a good trade in a keeper league. Pasquantino's 0 for 1 today. Hitters are off and 0 for 1 after 1 at bat.
Don't
Doesn't
worry
matter
about
at all.
First week. Don't worry about the first week of fantasy.
Yeah, well, unless like if Zach Gallen goes out and walks 8 batters, I'm gonna be like, oh,
I'll pick him up in waivers if you.
Don't worry, I'm not cutting him.
I'll be waiting.
Soon. I'm not cutting him anytime soon, but I might offer you a trade.
For who?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
Right now, I don't want to trade him. I mean, this is the thing about fantasy baseball, and it's something Kasey and I know well because we're very similar this way. You've got to monitor your mental state here because you're going to get messed up from one single day, and you'll start to devalue a certain player on your team.
It would be kind of like trying to watch the stock market every day, like watch your portfolio go
multiple times a day. Right.
Yeah. It's one of the things I like to do a lot in counseling is tell people when they're talking about how they're feeling, finish it with right now, because
that's good. That's good.
They get mad at me. One client gave me a T-shirt that said "right now" on.
I'm going to make those up right now. I'm going to make those T-shirts up. How about that?
Hilarious.
So
let's do some bold predictions. Oh, go ahead, Kasey.
No, that's what I was going to say. Let's move to the bold predictions.
Yeah. All right.
Corbin Burns lost today to the Cubs, which I don't think many people had that bold prediction. Marcus Stroman pitched 6 innings.
Baseball's like that, though. That can happen on any given day. Did Burns not pitch well is the question.
Well, Burns pitched, I'll tell you his stats. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 4 runs, only had 3 strikeouts, and walked 3. So, no, being the top pitcher in the National League in fantasy baseball, he had a horrible game.
Yeah.
Horrible, Kasey Scheinfeld.
It's horrible. How about this? Let's do how many home runs? This is not a bold prediction. This is a question. How many home runs is Kyle Schwarber going to hit?
47.
Okay, let me just talk about Kyle Schwarber real quick. So he's a guy. Last year, what did he hit? 212 last year, Kasey. 210,
212, 217, somewhere in there.
218.
Okay. So if some reason, if this guy can get, let me just give you just a bold prediction. That's why I'm talking about him right now. If he can hit 270, 270, even 260.
I was going to say, if he hits 270, he's hitting 270 home runs.
And the Phillies win the National League East, they could. They have a very good team. And he has between 40 and 50 home runs. He's the NL MVP. Take that, Kasey Scheinfeld.
I like that as a bold prediction.
That's a bold prediction, but
I'm saying
it is going to happen. I'm just
saying
he has
to hit 260. I mean, the first thing is guy has to hit at least 260.
Well, I think he's going to. You can add another 10 points without the shift, I think. So he might hit 230.
Listen, he may have gotten some bad luck too. He could hit 240.
Does he have a neck? Yes, sir. Does he have a neck, or it just doesn't have a neck?
I mean, when I counted necks, he had 0.
Okay, I just make sure. I never saw. I mean, he's just a head.
The over under is 1/2.
Head and shoulders. That's all. He should be the
neck.
He should be the shampoo guy for head and shoulders because he's like, there's no neck. Here's my head. Here's my shoulders. There, buy the shampoo.
All right. How about this? This is also not a bold prediction, but just a question. How many steals is John Bertie going to get?
For the Marlins,
38.
So
see, he's a good guy that if he gets the playing time, he can get 50.
Yeah, it's just a question of whether he gets the playing time.
Yeah, well, I mean he's another guy I don't want on my team.
He only had 358 at bats last year and stole 41 bases. So
I say he gets 50 stolen bases with all the shifts and everything, with the no shifts and everything else.
I predict that he'll only get 35 because I roster him. Who's going to lead the league in stolen bases?
Kasey, why don't you tell what I've been saying the whole?
Well, he's been saying Cedric Mullins all the time. I think it's Esteury Ruiz. I think the kid in Oakland, he's only going to get on base 80 times this year, but he's going to have 70 steals out of those 80 times on base. I don't even know if he's going to stop. He's going to walk and just keep going.
I mean, if you look at the stolen base list from last year, there's not that many guys that have that much upside to go a lot higher. Jake McCarthy, I think, is actually one of them.
I think Corbin Carroll is going to end up with 50 bags.
Oh, wow. That's a bold prediction.
I think Trey Turner is going to end up with 50 bags.
Trey Turner, I could see. Carroll, I don't expect to get 50. I think he'll get 30.
He was in the 100th percentile. He was in the 100th percentile of sprint speed last year. So he was literally the fastest man in baseball when he was up.
Wow.
And Arizona's they're going to have to play aggressive to compete.
Well, let me ask you this about Corbin Carroll then. Last year, why was he not talked about more? Or did I miss something? Was he being talked about all the time and I kept missing it somehow? He did not seem to get this much hype. It was only really towards the end of the year that people started really hyping.
Well, he was playing in the minor leagues, so no one's talking about him in the minor league baseball.
I can see that argument, but even so, it feels to me different than to me, he wasn't even getting a lot of hype in the minors from what I was hearing.
Well, I mean, if you follow, I read the prospect report every week. So to me, he's the number 3 ranked prospect in baseball. So to me, he's always been hyped. But he's in a small market in the Southwest, in the same division as the Dodgers and the Padres. And he's not going to, it's just, you're not as noticed, I think. But if you followed it, when he got called up, I think he was one of our higher fab budget bids to get him when Brad got him last year.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't hyped at all. I just, given how good he is, I think this just goes to show you that it's very hard to negotiate. Well, who's going to be the big breakout guy versus not? There's so much talent out there.
Yeah.
A lot of talent. That's why you got to spin the wheel and take a chance on people. Like I took a chance with Jordan Walker.
How many bold
Jordan Walker, I feel, has the highest ceiling of any rookie out there. I think he has the most potential.
Well, he's the number 4 prospect.
And I feel this guy is going to be a superstar. But that's me.
I'm going to make a bold prediction that's definitely going to burn me because it's about a guy on my own team.
Bold prediction number 1.
Vinny Pasquantino is going to win the AL batting crown.
Wow. That's bold.
It is. But listen to this.
No, hey.
If you look at his splits, if you look at his walks and strikeouts, for example.
Okay.
I mean, this was in his rookie year. He walked 35 times. He struck out 34 times. I mean, this guy, I'm not saying it is going to happen, but if you have that kind of eye,
yes, right.
It does have, I mean, it is plausible, isn't it?
It's a bold prediction. I'm not going to say anything bad about it.
He's in the hole already. He's 0-2.
Well, I'm not, again,
still going for it.
First week. But there's a guy who's your econ teacher in Chicago, Tim Anderson.
Tim Anderson, also on my team.
I think he'll win the batting title this year. That's my prediction. But it's not that bold. He's won it before.
I mean, look, it's bold. It's not as bold as Vinny Pasquantino, but it still would be quite a good prediction. He's one of the candidates for it. What about Aaron Judge?
He's going to hit 48 home runs.
I say 100. I say it's 162 home runs.
He's on pace.
300 RBIs.
He's on pace.
And he had 2 hits today, and one of them was a home run. I mean, Aaron Judge will have a great year. I don't think he'll have over 60 home runs.
Here's
my question was about his batting average. But
here was my bold prediction regarding Aaron Judge. He will not lead the Yankees in home runs this year.
You have made that prediction before. And
Josh Donaldson will lead the Yankees in home runs.
No, I did not say that.
I was going to go for the catcher.
That's right. Jose Trevino.
How about this? Let's do a bold prediction. You don't have to say that it's going to happen, but who's like a dark horse candidate for the Cy Young? We'll wrap up on this for today.
American League or National League?
Let's do both.
American Darvish in the national. Oh, we're doing.
Oh,
American
whoops.
Okay, I'm going to say Kevin Gossman.
Oh, I like that. That's a bold prediction. It could happen though. Ross?
Alek Manoah of the Toronto Blue Jays.
We're both going Toronto. I like it.
I like.
Okay,
Toronto.
I don't think
Toronto has a really good team, and again, their hitting is great, and they're proving it today already. I like Alek Manoah. I think he's going to pull everything together this year. I expect him to at least have 20 wins, and maybe the Cy Young. We'll see what happens.
Okay, I'm going to predict Christian Javier will win the Cy Young because for multiple reasons. But I drafted Verlander over Christian Javier. We know how that's going to.
And you and I actually talked earlier in the day about whether you should take Javier, and I was like, it's not the worst idea.
No, and I was actually leaning towards it at one point.
I like Valdez too in Houston.
Framber Valdez.
I like Framber Valdez, but here's my concern with him. I think Framber Valdez was one of the top 5 in the American League in ground ball percentage. And so the shift was really good to him. And I worry because he's not a strikeout guy. He's a ball and play guy. The loss of the shift, whether that'll come back to bite him. It might not, but that would be the only thing I could look at and say, nah.
All right. Any other bold predictions before we wrap up for today?
Well, let's go nationally. Kasey, who's your National League?
I think Yu Darvish is going to win the Cy Young.
Darvish, it's a bold prediction. I mean, it's not. He's got. I don't know if that's that much of a. I guess it is. I guess you're right.
Who else has picked him? That would be my way to say, is it bold or not?
I guess so. With the Cy Young, you got to go with a pitcher that's going to have a great year, and I'm going to take. A reliever has not won a Cy Young in how many years, Kasey?
Oh, it's been a long time.
I'll take Devin Williams of Milwaukee.
Whoa, in the Steve Bedrosian role.
I mean,
winning the Cy Young as a reliever.
Who was the guy who won it in the 80s? Was it Suter or Lee Smith?
Bruce Suter won it. I think he won it more than once, but back then it would happen.
The first modern closer to win it was Eckersley in 92.
Eckersley, I know he won it too, right?
The last one to win it.
Oh, Suter didn't win it.
The last one to win it was Eric Gagne.
Wow. Montreal born and bred. Eric Gagne
pitched for the Dodgers.
Had those cool glasses.
Did.
I'll take Devin. It's this bold prediction. Devin Williams, I think he'll be the Cy Young winner in the National League.
I like it.
And I'm going to make the call of Julio Urias.
Oh, I hope you're right.
He won. He has the most wins of any pitcher the past 3 years. So that's not a bold prediction. I mean,
it depends if they let him go more than 6 innings. He's finished third last year.
All right, so that's not such a bold. I'll back up and make a bolder prediction.
Yes.
Let's go with. Hold on a second.
Did I just hear you say Graham Ashcroft?
Actually, you know what? I wanted to pick up Ashcraft. I was mad he got snatched up. I'm gonna go with Zach Wheeler.
Okay,
it's a good one.
All right, guys, it's been great. Oh, we got some Final Four picks questions coming in. We'll answer.
Oh yeah, let's do this. I love. Guys, just so you know, I've been loving the tournament. I love all the upsets. I mean, Florida Atlantic. I San Diego State.
There are so many upsets.
I love it.
There are so many upsets that if UConn loses, I have nothing left, and I already am finishing second.
So UConn is the favorite in Vegas. I mean, you go to Vegas, you put a bet on one of the Final Four teams. UConn is the favorite. I mean, I'm rooting for Florida Atlantic just because the school's in Boca Raton and there's 3,000 kids go to the school, and I don't think anybody has a Florida Atlantic shirt that says. I don't think.
I mean, if they win, it will be the greatest upset in the history of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech had some big wins too, but Chris Robinson's a big Virginia Tech alumnus, huge, one of the biggest I've ever seen. But Final Four, Kasey, tell me your prediction. I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
I think it's going to be San Diego State, UConn, and I think San Diego State's going to win it.
I love that.
I think that UConn is going to make this very anticlimactic and absolutely destroy everyone in their path.
Who's UConn play for the first game? They play
Miami.
God,
isn't that right? No.
Yeah,
no.
UConn plays Miami.
Oh yeah, they play Miami. Yeah,
they're the second game on Saturday.
Can it be an all South Beach championship?
That would
Florida
be
Atlantic
crazy.
and Miami.
I mean, seriously, if Miami beats
Isn't
UConn,
Boca West Coast?
If Miami beats UConn in our pool, I will.
No, are they Gulf
second.
Coast or is Boca Atlantic Coast? That's what
Boca Raton is like right next to Miami. It's Kasey. I mean, that's where you'll be retiring very soon. So
I don't go to the retirement town.
Ross is a Florida geography snob.
Well, somebody sent me down there for the Bitcoin conference last year, which was unbelievable. But Boca's right next to Miami. It's
just north of Fort Lauderdale. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Hold it up.
And it's a very retirement community. It's a retirement community.
Well, Chris Robertson, let us know who you think is going to win.
But I'm going to say this. How about this bold prediction? All South Miami final and Florida Atlantic wins.
Oh, women's. Now he's asking about women's basketball.
South Carolina, period.
I'm
South
kind of rooting for Iowa because of Caitlin Clark, but it's a shame that they're playing in the first game instead of meeting in the final, South Carolina and Iowa.
It was a classic. I mean, really, shouldn't UConn Miami? That would be a
guys,
pretty great final.
Florida Atlantic and Miami in the final. How great would that be?
Well, yes, it would be great, but is it going to happen? I mean, I guess it could. I mean, this tournament's been crazy.
4 teams left.
Oh my God! Careful, Ross.
He's going up octaves.
All right, guys, it's been a pleasure being with you. Keep the questions coming. We're going to keep this fantasy baseball strategy going throughout the year. Thursdays, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm here with Kasey and Ross the Boss. Guys, it has been a pleasure, and we'll be back next week. We'll have a lot to report on. We'll have a full week of baseball in.
That's exciting.
Let's see how
go Canes and go out. Go Owls and go Canes.